So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board. We have a couple of administrative items to take care of before we really get underway. The first item is to approve the minutes from our September 14th Village Board meeting.
So moved.
I second. In for a second. Okay, so we have a motion from Ginny to approve the minutes. We have a second from Lynn. Is there any discussion of the minutes from the September 14th meeting? Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 0, 0, Amy. Okay, next up, we have the approval of the agenda for tonight's board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Ginny, a second from Warren. Any discussion of tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0. All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to move right into resident remarks. If you are a resident and would like to make remarks, you have up to 3 minutes. And the way we will call you is use the hand raise feature on Zoom. And Zoom will order you in the order that you raised your hand, and I'll call you and give you your 3 minutes to speak. So is there anyone for resident remarks? Okay, I see Alan Coltree. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I see hands raised on video too. Okay, so I see Alan Coltree, Roger Bilsma, and Alex Hakimian.
And
Oh,
Samuel.
and I see Samuel. Okay, I'm going to leave Samuel with his hand up there, and I'm going to start with Mr. Coltree.
Thank you, and thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to speak to you. I understand that you are in the process of considering access from the Thunderhill neighborhood to the other side of Route 108. I'm sure you're aware of the issues. I've lived here for about 25 years, and I'm just a few blocks from the pool here in Thunderhill. And there's really no way to exit the neighborhood on the 108 side and get across 108 except at Mellenbrook. That's the only place with both a light and a crosswalk. This side of 108 that we're on has no sidewalk and a very unreliable shoulder for doing any kind of bike or walking passage. So I was very excited to hear that it was being considered that the bike path from one of the small spurs of our internal bike path system here from, I guess it's Orchard, could be put through to 108. That will get us to the street, but still we are on the side of the street with no sidewalk and no reliable shoulder. If we could connect that across at Red Branch, that whole area from all the businesses on Red Branch all the way out to what's, I guess, now being called Arnold's Corner would be accessible to me. And frankly, for the last 25 years, if I wanted to go to someplace across the street like that, I pretty much had to use a car. There was no reasonable way to do it without being motorized. So I'm just stating my support for the idea, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next I had Roger.
You're muted.
I have to unmute.
Okay, now I'm on mute.
There you are.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to the board about this path extension and crosswalk across 108. I'm a 29-year resident of Thunderhill. I've, as Alan had mentioned, whenever I wanted to go over to businesses on Red Branch Road, I would drive. I have very seldom gone over there by foot. I do enjoy walking the paths and riding the paths on my bike in Columbia. I found out recently, actually in the past year, that there were paths over on the other side of the road and on the other side of 108. My wife and I have started trying to go over there, but we found that it's also difficult and rather dangerous to cross 108 because there is no crosswalk there at the light at Red Branch and 108. We do sometimes go down by the Wendy's and go across back into the walking areas back there, bike paths. But coming back, once we've gotten back into the Red Branch Road area is challenging and rather dangerous on 108. I also believe that if more people were aware of this, you would probably get a lot more support for this effort, especially since it's relatively small, roughly 50 yards of bike paths and then or walking paths, however you want to look at it, and then the crosswalk there. That is a rather dangerous intersection. I sometimes ride my bike down 108. I never go up 108 because I can't go up as fast as I can go down. But so I think that having the ability for residents of Thunder Hill to easily get across 108 without having to go all the way down to Mellenbrook would be very advantageous to the residents, especially since I found out recently that a lot of kids have gone across 108, basically jaywalking, to get over to the Red Branch area. There's a lot of things for kids back in there, and typically they have to be driven over there. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope that this moves forward.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, next we have Alex.
Good evening. As you're aware, CA is not preparing its priorities for the upcoming budget. And as you know, and we've discussed this before, surveys have consistently shown that open space and outdoor pools are the two top funding priorities of Columbia's residents. And this has been the case year after year after year for decades. And they say that that's where money should go, even during difficult economic times, such as we're having right now. Now, people do appreciate that the priorities of the village board are aligned with those two top priorities of the residents. And now really is the time for the village board to advocate for full funding of all the outdoor pools next summer. So please take this opportunity to approach CA and advocate for reopening all of the pools, all 23 pools next summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. For the record, we actually did that in our budget letter to CA sent. When was that, Sandy? Last month, August?
Yes. Yeah, you did.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
sure. Okay, Samuel.
All right. Hello. I just wanted to come on here and give a thank you to OMCA and the OMCA Education Committee for standing with the Oakland Middle Schools, not just this budget cycle,